Hey everybody, welcome to another Rackspace Office Hours live stream. My name is Alan Bush and we're broadcasting from Rackspace, the #1 managed cloud company. We're broadcasting live across a whole bunch of different platforms and we're happy to have everybody watching us right now. I just want to mention real quick that we'd love to hear from you, no matter where you're watching from. So if you're watching, drop us a comment and we'd love to hear from you there. It's not just Drew and I. We've got 3 guests that are joining us remotely. You'll hear their voices here in just a second. But let's go ahead and mention that we're going to be talking about high availability databases, cloud databases actually. So our database as a service product, we've actually implemented some really interesting high availability features. So I'm excited about that. Drew Cox, co-host.
Yes, I am. If you are watching this live and for whatever reason you can't watch the whole thing and want to come back to it later, this is going to end up on YouTube, and it's also going to end up on an audio-only podcast where you can listen to it on your commute or wherever you like to listen to podcasts. So feel free to grab that as you will, and we do this every Thursday, so there's new content that goes up on both of those platforms. So join us live if you're in the future listening to this. Thanks for joining us at your convenience, and if you us in the future, those are good ways to do it. So interact with us now. We'll be on Twitter always, so feel free to jump into the conversation during or after the fact in that way. So let's go ahead and do some additional introductions.
Exactly. We've got a great group of guests joining us that have actually been helping us to build out this cloud databases high availability product. So we got joining us Tim and Riddhi and Nabeel joining us all from various locations throughout Central Texas. How are y'all doing?
Good. Sick.
Yeah, it happens. We hope you're feeling better. Feeling better soon.
The value of remote work.
It is.
You can
get
some stuff done, but not feel like you have to drag yourself to and from the office and be on top of your game the whole time. So we appreciate you making it possible, and it's a good time to be alive. We can use tools like this.
Absolutely. Let's kind of introduce you all and individually and your roles here at Rackspace. We'll start on the left to right there. So Tim, it looks like you're up first. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how long you've been here at Rackspace and what you do.
Let's see. Been over at Rackspace now for a little over 5 years. I'm a MySQL DBA over on the engineering team for the cloud database product. So.
Absolutely, and we were talking a little bit before. It looks like you did a lot of the setup on how the availability and the failover and everything should work.
People give me too much praise.
Well,
it just ends up everybody emailing me after that.
Well, we appreciate the work you've done and the fact that you take your experience and your background and can apply it to customers who may never get the chance to actually talk to you, but they're using these products that have that those lessons learned and that experience kind of built into them. So that's I think it's a really valuable way to amplify your experience and expertise. So thanks for being a part of building this tool.
No, it was my pleasure. Definitely a fun ride, that's for sure.
Yeah, and for those customers out there who may not be using the product that we're going to talk about, you still do have the chance to work with our DBAs. We have a pretty incredible bullpen of really bright people who can jump in and tune those self-hosted, colo, I mean all sorts of options that we offer. People who can jump in, bring their expertise to optimizing your databases. So.
Exactly. Thanks, Tim. I guess Riddhi, you're up next. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how long you've been here at Rackspace and what you've been working on.
Yeah, so I've been at Rackspace for about 2 years now, and I'm a developer with the cloud databases team. And this is kind of my first job. I'm out of school. I went to UT here in Austin, and I've been in Austin working here. Love the city. Love the work. I've been so since I joined, I've worked on really cool features for cloud databases, especially replication and high availability. Replication being the stepping stone for high availability. So far so good. It's been a good experience.
You're the one who's doing the translating, who's putting the expertise in the hands of people who want to use it but may not have the necessary depth of experience. So you're bringing your expertise to bear to put those tools in front of our customers, which is fantastic. So thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you.
And Nabeel, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, so I've been with Rackspace for a little over a year now. Also, software engineer in the cloud databases group. Before this, I was working with Scholastic,
Oh,
putting their, moving a lot of their stuff from Oracle over to MySQL, and their sharding and replication efforts there. And after that, I've been working with a startup in DirecTV. Also, a lot of real-time data getting sent out to set-top boxes. And if you're familiar with the DirecTV Sunday Ticket platform, also a lot of database backend kind of work with that involved in scaling. So that's kind of what I've brought to the table here for this, for all of our HA efforts and stuff. So yeah, it's been very interesting.
It's always it's exciting when we can talk about customers that we've helped and we've taken those lessons learned. But when we have a company as large as this, you're really getting backgrounds that go much further than just assisting our customers on our platforms. You're really getting deep experience on these technologies from your past experience. So thanks for bringing that to the table and for helping out.
yeah, absolutely. Great to have you all joining us, and it's also great to have everybody that's watching live on YouTube, Facebook, and Periscope. Real quick, if you're just joining us, this is Rackspace, the #1 managed cloud company, and we're talking with 3 of the people who helped build our brand new high availability cloud database as a service platform. We've had the cloud database platform, I think it's one of the very first new products that we launched right when I joined about 3.5, 4 years ago, and it's been a very solid tool that people have used to architect their cloud applications. And one of the most requested features was ways to more intuitively build high availability and redundancy and failover into those. And we've really addressed a lot of that, and we're going to talk about that with Tim and Riddhi and Nabeel here as we go along. Let's talk a little bit about the initial rollout of cloud database and what that kind of look like. Can anybody tell us just a brief overview of the actual cloud database platform and what that allows our customers to do?
Let's see. The initial rollout and everything for cloud database was very standalone. It was your initial just single instance. What would sort of set it apart on the normal cloud servers kind of setup also is this one was containerized rather than VMs. It allowed us a little bit more controls when tuning the entire infrastructure as well to for a database product. A lot less issues with corruptions, similar things of that nature. Obviously, before you can step into any kind of replication or any of that, you got to start with the first stone or the first brick, which is that standalone. So with the that also was a lot of like 5.1, MySQL 5.1. Right. But as we transitioned onto our newer infrastructure, then all of a sudden we were able to start going down the path towards getting replication out the door, getting the HA solutions out the door. So it's been a nice transition, you would say, over the last, like you said, what has it been, over three or so years. Mm-hmm. A lot more optimizations and everything have gone in over that time, because when it first started out, I remember it was sort of at times that case of, wow, what are these configurations? What are people trying to do with this thing? And such. So like I said, it's been a fun ride just getting to where we're at now, and it's cool seeing all the new services and solutions that we've got available with it.
Well, at launch, it was really the decision between getting something up and running quick with little configuration, or having mm-hmm. something that you can tune and control all the knobs and levers. So that was really the trade-off is, mm-hmm. Do I want an instance that I can really plug and play and go, or mm-hmm. do I need to have all of those options to go in and make edits and mm-hmm. fine-tune something versus something that's already fine-tuned on the infrastructure side, but set up to be most broadly applicable. It's not really tuned to all of the potential solutions. Mm-hmm. So it was a bit of a trade-off. And as features continue to roll out, as you get replication in place, as HA becomes an opportunity you can take advantage of, more and more of the things that you would say, well, it sounds great, but I think I'm going to stick with the dedicated solution, or I think I'm going to stick with on a cloud server or a couple of cloud servers or clustering. More compelling to take advantage of that that offering that's as a service, which takes some of that work and some of that maintenance off your plate. And so that's really been the developing story around these as a service products, especially around database as a service. There's been trade-offs that consistently, as we iterate and provide additional features, those trade-offs become less and less, and the offering becomes more and more compelling. And there are more and more situations where customers can say, that really is starting to make a lot of sense for me, whereas I needed something that didn't offer. This offering has really changed the game for me. So this iterative process is really exciting for our customers and for us. Would you guys mind talking a little bit about how you iterate, how you decide, what's the next thing we're going to tackle?
Yeah, that's what I'd love to hear. Nabeel, Riddhi, either one of you jump in and kind of tell us a little bit about some of the things that we wanted to improve upon, and kind of how we chose which ones we wanted to improve on.
Sure. So I guess you can look at it in two different ways. You have the time before HA and high availability versus now the time after. So before, you kind of had this high availability stuff available. You have these single instances set up, and you have replication. Now, if you have an application that just connects to a single instance and it goes down, you're kind of screwed almost. Not almost, but you're
can't get to your data, your app doesn't work, or your
right.
doesn't work.
So now you're put into a position where, you might have to go update your application now to point to another database instance, and you got to back it up, and well, you got to hope you have backups, or you've got replication running, and now you got to go manually point it to this, this replica. You got to promote it to a master. So you need to have some, I guess, considerable amount of expertise in the area of being able to tackle, these scenarios where everything is not rosy. And I think a lot of us know that MySQL does not really make that easy for you. So now with the time, so you've got that. Then now you have this time after high availability that we offer, where not only are you covered in the case of, hey, if my master goes down, now I don't have to, manually go in and promote my slaves. You also have this situation too where you don't have to go into your application and now set up, change where it's pointing to and all that, because now we use virtual IP addresses and load balancers in front of it. So you've got a couple different layers of fault protection kind of built into the product now. So that's kind of one of the big things that we had identified in the case where what goes wrong, how can we fix what goes wrong. So kind of going through that sort of fault tree has brought on what kind of the product requirements are, and what we personally would like to accomplish and see in the case of if we're running the mission critical product, you don't want to go down at all. So I think this, out of the thinking about that situation, kind of bore out what the product is right now.
So does that come from Rackspace tools built on top of this product? Does that come from customers using it? Does that come from our expertise internally, just looking at the product and saying, we can do X, Y, and Z thing to make this better? What's that recipe look like?
So I think that it's kind of a combination of all three. We use a few kind of standard technologies on the failover side and also on the load balancing side. But in order to kind of mix them all together, that I guess takes the expertise, but then also the mix and matching bit to get them all to kind of orchestrate and work together, where where it's done in an automated manner. That bit is also what's developed in-house, and that we're able to build on top of not only the single instance and replication bits that we have, but also then add in sort of all this other technology and kind of meld it all together to work.
Well, good. Great. Let me go ahead and take a quick second and welcome everybody that's joined us on Facebook, Periscope, and YouTube. This is Rackspace, the #1 managed cloud company. I'm Alan Bush, and this is Drew Cox. And there are a whole bunch of disembodied voices. Don't worry, we don't have ghosts out here. We actually have a crew of people that are in various parts of Texas here, helping to maintain all of our infrastructure and build some brand new things, which is what we're talking about today: cloud databases and high availability. With those, we have Nabeel and Riddhi and Tim joining us, and if you want to see them as they speak, you can go over to live.ohpodcast.com. That's where we have the entire stream, and you can also find a whole bunch of past episodes and subscribe to the audio only podcast. So if listening to this in the car is the preferred way of getting your office hours, that's a great way to do that. Also want to give a few quick shout outs to everybody that's joining us. Jody and Michael, thanks for joining us. Jody, great suggestion to remind everybody to go over to the ohpodcast.com site. And Michael, my mustache is fantastic, but I think it's a Lyft mustache. It's not an Uber mustache, and I don't want to get anybody in trouble with the brand police. So, but thanks for the insight, and you too can grow a mustache if you just don't shave for 36 years. So back to the cloud database and the high availability. Let's talk a little bit about how we've actually implemented the product. Riddhi, can you tell us a little bit about some of the main features that we really wanted to make sure that we incorporated for our customers, and kind of how they would get started with those?
Right. So when it comes to high availability, failover was of course one of the byproducts or one of the necessities when it comes to HA. But the other interesting user story was that when you do just vanilla replication, right, there is a replica that you have alongside your master, which is just standby and doing nothing. So in case of high availability, we also had the option to enhance performance of applications by actually splitting out your reads and writes. So your replicas could potentially be used for reading, and your writes could just be directed to the master. So this was one add-on or another additional benefit of using HA. And when it comes to implementation and how we went over choosing a technology set, it's important to understand what our base foundation architecture is like. So if you guys have heard of the OpenStack project called Trove, that's what we so yeah, the cloud databases project originally started off with OpenStack Trove. So in fact, it was an incubation project that was started off between teams from Rackspace, that is cloud databases, and HP, and it gained a lot of traction in the OpenStack community, and it's now become a full-fledged OpenStack project. So we kind of have gone. We're not part of the community anymore, but sort of the OpenStack project is our foundational architecture, which then ends up using these other OpenStack services, namely Cinder and Nova, for resources. So we end up using Nova for compute resources, and this is where we spin up our OpenVZ containers on which our MySQL servers are running. And in fact, even our load balancer nodes, which run, so load balancers essentially are the important component when it comes to HA for routing your reads and writes and for being a home to tools that can actually monitor failover. So even our load balancer nodes are provisioned on Nova compute resources in containers. So what's to understand is in an HA setup, each HA cloud database instance in the backend has at least 2 database nodes. So one is a master and one is a replica. You can have like a configurable amount of replicas. And then on the front end, there are these load balancer nodes that route requests to the master and replicas depending on what the port the customer is accessing on. And apart from this, so the main thing with HA is our choice of failover technology. And I'll lead to Tim as to how we went over and decided on as to what tool to use. But we end up using this tool called MySQL MHA for failover. So this tool or this service is what lives on the load balancer nodes as well, and is responsible for monitoring your master, promoting your slave, reattaching the existing replicas to the new master in case of a failover. And apart from this, just to add on our HA offering, we also have like a security nice to have security aspect by basically restricting IPs that have access to your HA instance. So we have access control lists that can drop all connections and allow only restricted IPs to your HA set. So that's just an overview of how we've implemented HA, and of course the load balancers use HA proxy, and they are provisioned in an active passive fashion, and they're managed by Keep Alive D. So that's one more layer of failover or fault tolerance that we have. So I think I'll pass on to Tim to kind of elaborate more on how we chose MySQL MHA, because that's an interesting topic, especially when there are so many failover tools that are available, and why specifically we went with MySQL MHA.
Great.
All right. As Riddhi was saying, there's a lot of tools available out on the market. And the funny part, I mean, MySQL great, doing a lot of different things, but it doesn't really have built-in failover of its own. With like 5.6, 5.7, they've been coming out with new things for their MySQL utilities, but there's still external tools to the actual MySQL database. So when going to take a look at what options that we wanted to run with, we actually went with, we investigated a lot of different options. So looked at the MySQL failover scripts utilities that were available from Oracle, looked at Percona's replication manager, looked at Galera, looked at even the DRVD setups, the possibility of us writing something ourselves. And all of these had certain caveats that it sort of didn't fit what we were looking for. A big part of it, we had two major items that were coming in for, you could say, MVP on that our customers were asking for. It was one, the failover, but also those read pools. We could do it with something like DRBD, but the potential issues of split brain with a DRBD setup, and if something goes wrong, it goes wrong really bad. Also, you have an offline master, which preferably I'd rather have an online master with a warm buffer pool, because MySQL, especially the InnoDB storage engine, very memory heavy, but also you want your data in memory as soon as possible. So with a DRBD setup, it's offline, it has to start up and get, it takes time to build that buffer pool back up. So I wanted to go with something that was more of a standard MySQL where the master and the slaves are already online the full time. So now that leads me down to the options that are in that sense, the always online, either using standard replication or you have something like Galera. Galera is extremely nice, but one issue that we have is it's not really the issue, but it's what our customers are. There's a lot of the DIY guys. There's a lot of ones that are going to ask us before they're doing something, but we don't want them. Galera has the situation where it's InnoDB, it's transactional. There's still a lot of customers out there with non-transactional databases, MyISAM and such. So the problem that they would run into if Galera was our setup was they would import their databases and only discover that it didn't replicate later on. And so it opens up conversation.
Later on.
No.
Yeah, exactly. I don't need the customer showing up after the fact with we saw an issue, not for a default HA solution. So you want something that's going to be able to handle all the different data workload types, but also the data set types. And using standard replication allows us that. Now this falls into the different options for failover solutions, the replication manager, MHA, Triple M or MMM. Out of these, MHA and the logic behind MHA, it's very mature. It's been around for a while, developed by one of the guys over at Facebook. A lot of the logic's the same logic that Facebook uses behind the scenes in their failover processes as well. So when it comes down to the way that things are promoted, but also the data syncing and everything behind the scenes, it was easily the winner out of all the different options.
Well, a lot of the themes around what you're talking about are taking tools that the community is already engaged in and have that deep expertise. I mean, earlier in the conversation, Riddhi was talking about using Trove and using Nova and a lot of these other OpenStack functionality and tools and projects to get to where we are today with these products. And there's a lot of value in taking something that it's not, Rackspace eyes only. It's something that a community is working on. And SQL's clearly one of those things, but we're talking about a lot of other components that have to be brought together to have this ideal outcome of a truly high availability offering that can be delivered in an as-a-service model. And so a lot of what you're talking about is taking things that are already built, but when we're involved in something like OpenStack, where we're one of the founders, and we're very involved in contributing back into that that project and that ecosystem, not only are we providing something to our customers, we're providing something back into the community. So what y'all are talking about is not something that's out of the realm of possibility for one of our customers or somebody else on a cloud platform or who have built their own cloud to do. But it is something that we've already spent the time and the energy and the effort to get to market. And so to start from square one and build back up to the point where we already are is a pretty big undertaking. And so one of the things that really excites me about being a part of this conversation is that we can take all of your experience and your expertise and offer that to our customers. But the three of you aren't the only people involved in bringing this offering to bear. There's a gigantic ecosystem in all of these different products that have gotten them to the point of their maturity, and then your experience, bringing together the best of breed solutions that keep in mind our customers' needs. Just the efficiency component of having not having to bring the master up to speed and online, you might as well get the value out of the resources that are needed all the time instead of having something that you're not ready to use right now. And that was one of the problems with replication. You have a read-only option that's a slave that's just sitting there that you're not actually able to read from. So to be able to bring that into the conversation and get value out of those resources is a pretty big deal. And that's one of the things that customers would ask for. Is like when we're talking about DR and HA is a piece of that DR conversation. A lot of times people have a cold site that's just sitting there that they're paying for that they may or may not use. And at a certain point, that tension is frustrating to customers. Look, I'm spending all this money. Let's get value out of it. I feel like that's a lot of the conversation we're having now is let's provide a product that gives customers maximum value out of the resources it's going to take to do this. Would you guys have maybe some stories around customers asking for that and then their reaction once they've got a product they can use that delivers that additional efficiency?
Well, while you guys think about that real quick, I'll take this second to welcome everybody that's watching us here at Rackspace, the #1 managed cloud company. It's Drew and Alan from Rackspace, and we're talking with Nabeel and Riddhi and Tim from our cloud databases product, and we're talking about the wonderful new high availability database that we have available now. So not just having a single database in your infrastructure, but a high availability set. And we're also talking a little bit about the way that we architected that from the inside, right? And because it's a very important, we are giving this to our customers so that they don't have to worry about that architecture. And we've spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to make that work the best way for our customers. I just want to mention, too, that if you have any questions at all, you can shoot them our way. Comment on whatever platform you're watching us on, and we'd be happy to get them answered for you as well. We've had a couple of comments already from Facebook and other places, and really appreciate that, and hope to get a couple of more that are out there. Well, did anybody have any stories that you thought of here? I think, Tim, I cut you off as soon as you started to talk.
Yeah, let's see. Stories. Wow. Seen some things, but anyways. Now, one thing that's, I mean, as we transition, there was a lot of customers that weren't moving or really looking at the database because HA being such a big deal to them at that point.
Even though moving from running their own database on a cloud server or dedicated server?
Exactly, with the replication setup, even though they were still doing a very manual process of failing over, so the downtime was still there and all those things. So this was like a big showstopper for a lot of customers. Even though it was funny because for a long time I think we were moving to like 5.6, we had Perconas, we had Maria, all these other options now available, all the config options. We had thrown out everything that you could for a standalone, but still a lot of customers that just couldn't make the move. It was business decisions just weren't allowing it. So at that time, a lot of the databases that we saw were very common CMSs, stuff like WordPress, Magento, Drupal, things of that nature. Now with the HA solutions coming into play, it's actually sort of cool. At least it's cool on my part as the DBA in me, because now all of a sudden all the custom applications and everybody starts showing up. So it's now the old tuning and everything where it was more 80% around the CMSs. Well, now all of a sudden you have to relook at it. It's like, okay, what's the customer base doing again? And the customer base as a whole starts to shift. And it makes it definitely a much more fun time. A million one new scenarios for everybody to get to look at. And I know our frontline support guys, because we have our own support team for the database product as well outside of the standard Rackspace support teams. And I know their lives become much more exciting with all these new the new applications and customers. So it's been good times. I like it. Like I said, what's fun without being in the fire?
That's a great point. Great point. Well, maybe we can talk a little bit about the specifics of the product itself and how it all works together. Nabeel, can you tell us a little bit about some of the details around this, as far as how many replicas you can have and failover and things like that?
Yeah, sure. So right now you can have 2 replicas. It's and then obviously you have the main master there. I guess I can go back to the before HA and after HA bit, just kind of lay the law of the land. Basically, you have the HA stuff. The database is running on our VZ containers. Sitting on hosts. They talk to Cloud DNS and all that kind of stuff. And then under that, you're talking to some, the Trove components. So you've got the conductor, task manager, all of those good guys. And then, you've got your API and control plane stuff sitting in front of that. Now, when we transition to HA, obviously we have to now, instead of having a single VZ container on a single, host, we've got now they're moved to separate hosts, so you've got some redundancy there. In terms of then the architecture, you have HA proxy sitting in front of those guys, which is then managed by a guest agent that's custom there, who can, basically gets notifications of, hey, there's been a failover, now switch, HA proxy. Within HA proxy, we have 2 separate ports that are open. So the standard MySQL 3306 runs to the replicas. So now you have a read-only, basically a read pool. And then you've got now the 3307 port, which goes to the master only, and you can read from that technically, but now you've got this clear separation and load balancing of, what are my read replicas, and now, who can I write to? So eventually at some point, if you've got 10 replicas sitting there, you've got the load distributed across those 10 replicas without really having to do anything except pointing to the default port and the DNS entry on the VIP. So that's kind of the nice thing where now in your application you don't have to manually go through and, hey, randomly pick out of this list that I don't know if this list is up to date or not. So you've got that now managed for you as part of the architecture. Sitting behind that, then you've got, obviously the MySQL hosts and sitting there, and they're all talking to each other over our service net, and basically, so that's kind of, I guess, the overall architecture. And yeah, so you've got also API access and, access to the reach control panel, so now you can also trigger some backups and things like that, which also get put into your cloud files off of the replicas, so you're not interrupting writes and stuff that are going to the masters. And along with all of that, then as part of the architecture, we also make sure that we have monitoring and stuff built in. Now, so when failover happens, essentially MHA, which is running on our load balancers, so that is also has its redundancies. We use keep alive D to make sure that both of those load balancers are alive, and MHA is running properly on one of those, and the VIP is assigned properly. So what happens is that when MHA detects that, hey, I can't connect to the master anymore, it's gone down, it automatically will now go to one of the slaves. It'll pick the one that's the most up to date, and actually, since we're using semi-sync replication, they're pretty much all up to date anyway. There's no kind of real lag there. MHA will pick one of those slaves to then promote to the new master, and we can detect that happening on the back end. So we can tell that, oh, now this slave is now reporting as a master. Let's now make sure that everything looks kosher and okay. So now once we do that, we can check our, all of our replicas now pointing to this new master. This customer dictated that he wants a minimum of 2 replicas. Now we're down to 1 replica. Let's spin up a new replica now to replace that one. So we can ensure that, okay, now we still got this high availability setup that is valid going on here. And basically from then, now we can just orchestrate making sure that all these services have come up, they're all online, everything's copacetic, MHA is happy. Now HA proxy is then also updated so that it's pointing to the read pool is updated, the new master is all updated, and obviously when your master goes down, your application's going to disconnect, but it will keep trying to reconnect, and this whole actually failover process happens in about 5 to 10 seconds. So now,
wow.
Sorry.
I said, wow, that's great.
Yeah. Yeah, so within 5 to 10 seconds now you're switched over, and the time it would basically take you to figure out which instance to SSH into to promote that one manually. So it's pretty nice. Then what happens is that your application, since it's only pointing to one DNS, it will now, or to the to the one VIP/DNS, it will automatically basically connect to the new master, and you're back to chugging along. So that's basically how the entire sort of process works. And then also inside of the failover pieces, there's alerts that go out to the customers, and if the support keeps an eye on it and all that kind of stuff too. So I guess that's kind of the basics behind it there.
It sounds like there's some self-healing components built in. When you lose a node and all the failover happens, the functionality behind the scenes knows we need to have at least 3 total. We need a master and 2 slaves. We've lost the master, so now there's a new master. Now we're down a replica. Let's replace the replica. So now we're back up to 3, which is a pretty huge component to this. You lose one and then you lose a second, then you're really in trouble if there's not been any functionality to replace problems.
I would say that in addition to being self-healing, it's also sentient, so it just knows.
That's
and a little
great.
bit frightening,
yeah,
but in a good way.
It's a good frightening. It's a good frightening. All right, well, we're kind of coming up on the end of our time. I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit more about how we can actually, how our customers are actually going to start implementing this. So, Riddhi, can you tell us a little bit about it's available in the Rackspace control panel right now, right?
And API.
And API.
That's right. That's right. So you can just go, if you have a MyCloud account, a Rackspace account, under the databases tab, so far you could just spin up single instances. And now there is an option to spin up an HA instance where the configuration of it is very similar to single instances, except that you just specify how many replicas you want explicitly, and then specify the RAM size and the disk size, how much data you want to be storing, depending on, and spin off your instance. And it's pretty straightforward. It's all on the UI, and then you can even perform actions on your high availability instance. So, for example, take backups, or you can enable scheduled backups. So this periodically takes backups of your instance, however you configure. So it's always a nice to have feature in case things go down. You can always rely on your backups, restore an instance from your backup, and start off from where you left. Apart from that, you can also add like custom configs to your MySQL servers, so that can fine-tune depending on however you want to run your application. And of course, you can say change settings of your HA instance. For example, somewhere midway you decide you're going to have a lot of data, then you can increase your disk size, your volume, and if you think you need more memory, you can increase that. Or if you think you're going to not need that much memory and don't want to pay for it, you can always reduce it. So you can do all the actions that you do on single instances, even on an HA instance, and these are all orchestrated in the background, and they all happen at a cluster level, basically.
Well, there's a couple things about that are really exciting. One of which is we always recommend testing. I wouldn't roll forward with a project or a product that you haven't put through at least a few paces. And we have a lot of customers who are currently using servers that function as databases and aren't necessarily using cloud databases. So in one of those situations, if you have a test or a dev environment, this would be a great opportunity to stand up an HA database as a service instance, run some tests against it, maybe scale it up, scale it down, give it more resources, fewer, and find where that sweet spot is for you today. And then once you're comfortable that it does what you expect it to do, it's got the performance you need at the size that you're willing to set up, then you have a lot of really good data to say, we don't have all of these functionalities today. We have to auto fail, or we have to manually fail over when there's a problem, and we have to maintain these, and it takes time that we could spend doing something else. I've done all the testing. Here's the data. Here's what it would look like for us to promote this product into our production environment. I think that is a hugely valuable thing to be able to do, and I really, really strongly recommend if you're looking for more high availability in your project and you're using servers now, roll this out in test or in QA and see what does it look like to interact with a database as a service solution as opposed to running that on servers, and really get a sense for what that's going to look like for your business and for your application. You may be very pleasantly surprised that the features come along with this product really, really do take workload off of your teams, or you may find value there that you don't currently have and want to make that shift. But test it first. Sounds like there's a lot of ease of use to scale up and down your approach, which don't just try it one way. Try it
all of the ways,
a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller, and see where that sweet spot is. But that's huge to have a good way of testing and trying out. And maybe you don't have an environment now to work with, and you're thinking about a new project. Well, this is a fantastic thing to stand up next to physical servers or cloud servers that are running that database function, and do some benchmarking between the two before you go live with your product. There's a lot of value in some of these features that would take a lot of work for you to set up on your own. So,
and we've done that work.
Well, we have.
And when I say I mean
Rackspace,
you all and several other people. But yes, absolutely. Well, hey, one other thing, if you are thinking about becoming a Rackspace customer, you're not a Rackspace customer yet, and you want to give this a try, go ahead and kick the tires a little bit. I've got 2 really big announcements that are going to help you do that just a little bit more efficiently. The first one is an announcement on our pricing for our managed infrastructure cloud customers. So now, brand new managed infrastructure customers, we're going to start waiving the minimum service charge for our managed infrastructure cloud accounts for the first month. So that means that you can try our cloud with no commitments, and just pay for the infrastructure that you use during that time. Now, then that minimum service charge of $50 a month would be applied after the first 30 days across. But that is for all of our cloud products, cloud servers, virtual servers, bare metal servers, and of course cloud databases that we're talking about as well. And then additionally, I have a special offer for anybody that signs up in the Rackspace community over at community.rackspace.com. Sign up there, send me a direct message, and I will give you a coupon. When you sign up, we'll give you an additional $50 worth of credit off of your infrastructure. So we can actually get you set up really well, to get started and to try some of these things. So if you're interested in trying high availability databases, cloud servers in general, go ahead and do that to get us set up. Again, just note that after that first month of service, both the $50 minimum service level and the $50 credit, they're going to return and go away, respectively. So it'll be back to regular pricing at that point in time. And then one other thing I would like to mention as well is when you get signed up for this, take advantage of our cloud launch team. They are a great team of rackers that work with our brand new customers for that first 60 days, and they help you understand what you need to do to get up and running. A great team of rackers that really know what they're doing and are able to guide you along the way and get you a little bit of proactive support.
Yeah, we recommended testing and kicking the tires, but we're talking about cloud databases today. It's not our only other product. We've mentioned cloud servers and ServiceNet and all of these other underlying functionality and tools that are part of our cloud that our launch team people can really help you take advantage of. So while we're talking about one piece of our public cloud infrastructure right now, there's a lot of other features that are involved. There's a lot of other tools that are out there, and there's a lot of lessons learned that those people have that they can bring to the table to help you work through, how am I going to launch this thing? How am I going to deploy? How am I going to build with those lessons learned, that expertise in mind? And if you never get the chance to talk to them, you're not going to be able to bring their expertise to bear on your project. So it's really a valuable phase in your life cycle as a customer. And so when you set up, be sure to talk to those people. We've got guys and gals who've got a lot of experience and a lot of deep expertise that if they don't know the answer, they've got people that they can bring in, but a lot of times they've seen something similar to what you're doing.
And it's all the way through the life cycle, right? I mean, you mentioned the life cycle. So when you come on, we recommend that you talk to a launch manager. But I mean, think about the panel that we've assembled today, right? So we have Riddhi and Nabeel who have helped to build the actual software behind it. Tim, as a database administrator, is there to advise on the overall architecture of the high availability clusters, but then also he's a person that you can reach out to, like an actual person that's there to help you if you need anything in addition to any additional help there. So it's been a great great to talk with everybody there as well. Nabeel, Riddhi, Tim, thank you very much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Did we miss anything that we absolutely need to tell our customers today?
I would just like to add one more point, sorry. So what's sweet about our platform or ecosystem is that I would like to point out that we also provision another data store in highly available data store, namely Redis, which is also under the Rackspace umbrella within data stores and in fact Object Rocket. So it basically uses the same platform and ecosystem as HA-MySQL. So it's just pointing out the fact that the architecture is scalable and you can use it. It's like a sweet spot to what you want to customize, and also at the same time provide a foundation, the base foundation that makes things you can get started really easy on. So yeah, that's just one last point I wanted to highlight.
Yeah, that's a great point. And Object Rocket, Redis for Object Rocket actually just went live, not just in our own data centers, but in AWS data centers as well. So another great thing to keep in mind too. I mean, we've got a wide variety of technologies that we can help you on. We've got an expertise across all of them, and on the platform that you want.
And now we're talking about caching, and we're talking about some functionality that really plays nicely with some of those CMSs we talked about, like Magento. I know is
does well with the Redis.
Really high performant when it comes to incorporating Redis. Redis and Magento play very well together. And so as we talk about additional functionality and additional tools, again, these are going to be places that we may be able to help, and it may not be just for Rackspace cloud customers. We're expanding where we're deploying, what technologies we're bringing our expertise to bear in, and then these as-a-service models allow you to be up and running very quickly with some very informed architecture and decisions that have been made behind the scenes to make that as usable and performant as possible.
Yep.
Right, even the AWS Redis architecture basically is built out with the same foundation. So that's just another example of how scalable it is, and you can actually plug in any cloud provider you want with this service stack.
Just a really exciting offering to have so widely available now.
Yep. All right, two quick questions before we leave. Real quick, Nabeel, are you? Looks like you've gone over to the dark side. I noticed your Darth Vader behind you. Has that impacted the way that you have addressed setting up these high availability databases?
When they don't work, he gets really pissed.
Okay, noted. So that means that we've done a pretty good job, I guess. And then finally, real quick question, Tim. Hey, I have a question. What type of a DBA are you? Are you a MySQL DBA or a MySQL DBA?
MySQL. Actually, I'm MySQL and Cassandra. Funny thing.
Okay. Oh, there you go. There you go. All right. Well, hey, thank you all for joining us. I really appreciate you jumping in and taking an hour out of your day to share. This was very educational for me. Learned a heck of a lot, and I can't wait to start getting into using HA databases for us. I know it's something that we've been looking forward to for quite a while, and I know it's going to be very helpful to our customers. And I know we're going to be actually using them internally for some of our stuff that we're building out too. So great to see that as well. Again, thanks you for watching on Facebook, Periscope, and YouTube Live as well. You can find us here every week, every Thursday at 1 o'clock. We've got, what are we talking about next week? We're talking about something. We're talking about
hybrid
databases, actually. We're going to talk a little bit about if you have a PCI requirement or something like that where you need to have a single tenant database. We're going to be talking a little bit about that. And then the week after that, we're going to be talking about something that I think is pretty important. The way that Google Chrome is going to start deprecating the reputation for sites that use SHA-1 encryption for their SSL. So got a couple of really interesting shows coming up in the next couple of weeks. Check those out and head over to ohpodcast.com to subscribe to the podcast.
Absolutely.
On that note, thank you again, and we'll see you all next week.